Hi everyone. Let's take a look at the Miltech Chinook CH47D, which has recently come out. So I was kind of umming and ahhing about getting this particular one. Those of you that have seen my other couple of videos that I've done, you know that I'm kind of super keen on the DCS one that's coming up. So let's have a look. So yes, we are looking at a D model as opposed to the DCS one, which is going to be an F model. But certainly inside, there's a lot of kit that I recognise. But as you'll see with the outside, it seems to be like a bit of a mashup actually between the D model, like US version, F model UK, and things like that. I'm not going to go too kind of in depth into where stuff is, primarily because there's quite a lot of other kind of videos out there. There's one in particular which I'll kind of link in the description. I think it's CH47 Driver, I think it is. You really want to give him a follow, but he's done like a 2-hour video, so this is a current kind of Chinook pilot. And I watched all the way through it, and there's tons of stuff that he kind of picks up, similar things that I picked up as well, such as things like the parking brake is in a different position, scan switches, I'm just going through there, don't quite kind of operate as you'd expect. The caution advisory panel, there are some captions that kind of come up on that which seem to work in that sort of opposite sense. But yeah, you know, you got your pilot's co-pilot instrument panels. Now we're currently looking at the CANSID console. Quite a few gaps, but again, that would depend on which nation you've got, I guess. But yeah, basic kind of AFCS panel that's there, and I'm just kind of pointing out the LPI, which is actually an important bit of kit. Now we'll just have a look down at the center console, so it's not an interseat console. I know, like he did point out in his video, he said, "Oh, what about this switch for power steering and stuff like that?" But on a UK one, it does actually look like that. On the as we call it in the UK, like the collective, aka the thrust. Again, it's just down to terminology, right? We tend to call those like beep trims. It has, you know, you should be able to trim the aircraft out, and it's something that he discussed really well in his video. But I've noticed, and any of you that have got the model, you probably notice it. You just can't seem to do that. Yeah, so we got I suppose like a version of E2, E2B, E2C kind of basic sort of compass there, and then on the overheads panel, yes, it's kind of a mix again, I suppose, of panels that I recognise. One of the things that I don't get is it seems like you've got to turn all the EEP switches on, otherwise you get a whole load of captions, even though there's not actually any EEPs fitted to the aircraft. If you don't, it'll just sit there and give you caution captions and things like that. Those selector switches, again, for a UK model, you'd expect to be kind of push button for the pumps, for the main tanks and the aux tanks and things like that. What else have we got? Yeah, things like the ramp tends to be just like an isolator, as opposed to, you know, you'd never kind of put it up and down from the cockpit. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's it is a good looking model, right? Just in general. And then as we look back into the cabin, yeah, you know, seats look good. Seat straps are down. You can see the ramps all the way up, and the ramp tongue. Again, there's a little, you know, there's some differences in terminology, right? So when we bring up the iPad here, which you know, it's fairly intuitive to work out what's what, so you can just kind of pop some troops in the back. So I'll just kind of turn around in a sec, and there we go, we got a bunch of troops which are sort of sat there being good to go, which is kind of classic kind of Chinook stuff, right? Um, Again, I'm not going to go through every single selection that's on there because there's plenty of other people that have already gone through every single step that's available. But yeah, you can give yourself there's a few different missions that come with it. From the fuel perspective, it is in pounds. Again, if it was a UK aircraft, it would be in kilograms. But you can adjust the fuel levels on the mains and the auxes and things like that. So this is what I was saying about the ramp in particular. Okay, so and in fact the other doors, because it talks about like top slide and things like that, right? And fold and this sort of stuff. So they just need to change a little bit of terminology for that. Um, Ordinarily, this would be the crewman that would be doing this job, kind of moving the ramp. When the aircraft is flying around, usually, like certainly the ramp tongue will be down. So the ramp tongue is kind of this top, this sort of slide bit that they're talking about here. Anyway, let's have a little bit further back. There we go. And in fact, if we're going to be starting the aircraft up, and normally how they sit on the flight line actually is with the ramp, with the ramp tongue in, and the ramp just basically resting on the ground, right? So when you operate the ramp from inside the aircraft, you kind of get all these hydraulic sounds and things like that. It just doesn't do that in reality, right? It's yes, it does use the hydraulics to lift it up, but it's not. It doesn't sound like, I don't know, something out of like Terminator moving his arms or something. So anyway, look around the front of the aircraft. I mean, yeah, basic model looks okay. I mean, there are some kind of differences. Those bits on the nose there above your piso probes. You wouldn't see that on the UK version, but I know that basically what they've done is they've taken like a basic model and just changed like the skin or whatever. And the UK color scheme and things like that does look pretty good. There are some bits missing. For example, this is the heater, right? So you've got the intake, but the exhaust is missing, right? You should have like a silver exhaust above that. Yeah, that door certainly doesn't jettison, right? That's that particular door there. It's yeah, you're pretty much going to nowhere there. But yeah, from the side and everything, it looks good. You can see all the the detail on the skin, the Royal Air Force and things like that. Yeah, not bad, not bad. And like everything. By the way, I should mention this is the latest version as of, I think it was updated on the 21st of March, maybe. So it's had, I think, like two or three updates now. Looking up to the blades and like the heads and things like that. Yeah, not too bad, but they would kind of be, there's a lot of weight there, right? So they would be drooping down a bit more. Engine wise, so yeah, you don't have like a fuel panel kind of marker there. And also the panel at the bottom of the engine, you can actually look through that. There's a bit more of a grill, so it's a bit more see-through. And just where it says no step there is actually a panel that kind of folds out, so you can actually climb up and access the engine if you need to do maintenance and things like that. But also, you notice, right, it's got the basic screens on it, right? Okay, there's no EEPS fitted. UK model, yeah, so that bubble window would be at the back rather than in the middle for that, yeah. Other bits, so yeah, I won't say exactly what some of this kind of stuff is, but yeah, that's pretty accurate and very similar to current models as well. As far as the back's concerned, there are some additional bits of kit there. So, for example, for quite a lot of nations, they kind of park a couple of flare dispensers back there. And if you look, for example, at the DCS model, you'll see that's where they got flare models or magazines, should I say. Power steering in the bottom right hand corner. model looks really good from this perspective, looking up at the back, right? So you can see the APU, you can see the intake, the exhaust. Again, there's a couple of kind of extra bits there from like a lighting perspective, because we've got things like position lights, NVG lights, but also seems to be like an additional sort of set on there as well. Looking inside, so in the ramp, yeah, so the three kind of items you can see there, so they're the tow ramps, right? So they actually fold out, but it takes a crewman to actually pick them up and kind of pop them on the ground, right? It's not something that happens automatically, but in the game it seems like you can kind of do that. What else? So there's a certain amount of detail in here, but there's quite a lot that's missing. I guess I only expected it to be kind of so sort of detailed inside, so I can't get kind of that sort of overly excited about it. But yeah, there's quite a lot, and sometimes it does come as a bit of a surprise to people that all of this kind of kit at the very back next to the ramp is kind of wide open, but that's the way it is, right? There's no sort of soundproofing and what have you. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, up the top, yes, you have kind of got a panel there. There is, yeah, there's certainly quite there's a lot more detail they can add in, but I guess, you know, the more complex they kind of make it, perhaps it would be tricky to get things to kind of work together. And obviously we want to have like a nice sort of stable aircraft. Maintenance panel doesn't look too bad, actually. I must admit, right? So you've got all your various kind of warnings and indications and stuff like that for all of the transmissions on the aircraft, like things like ground contact lights. You can monitor the three different hydraulic systems that it's got on the aircraft, just missing a label on the ends there. But yeah, maintenance panel looks pretty good, actually. Not too bad at all. Yeah, and just kind of coming out through the back. And yeah, that's you know, if you showed that to, I suppose, somebody at Odiham or whatever, that kind of shot that we had just there, they'd be like, hey, not too bad. There is like a big a sort of handle there, which is used as part of the utility hydraulic systems. But again, I can't get overly excited about that. But yeah, that's a pretty good view, right? So let's just see, just come around to the other side. You see the other aircraft behind that, right? So you wouldn't tend to see them parked like that. They'd normally sat, and even with this aircraft here, you see how the ramp is kind of almost like horizontal or whatever. You know, it would just be kind of left on the ground as opposed to kind of up. Just looking over the top, then and we'll just kind of pan the camera down. Yeah, this is what I was saying. So you would have like an anti-collision light up the top. These blades, I know it's been picked out in other videos, but those blade roots are massive, right? They need to be, that almost needs to be cut by half. But those just seem to be really long for what you see on the aircraft. But other than that, not too bad. You see all the like the non-slip on the top, so people can kind of transit backwards and forwards across the top. It is missing a little bit just in front of the combining transmission, so as you can get across. On the blades themselves, yeah, don't look too bad. They are kind of missing, so they do have like these little kind of trim tabs on the back of the blades. But again, you know, I like the weathering and stuff like that. That's pretty good. And then just looking at the forward head and the blades, you notice how it's moving around ever so slightly as well. Again, you kind of, I know the developers have said that they haven't got a rotor brake on, but yeah, UK ones would have like a rotor brake, so they wouldn't be sat there just allowed to kind of freewheel in the wind. And to be honest, yeah, they wouldn't really do that much. As far as the actual dispersal, so yeah, looking pretty good, right? So you got 27 Squadron, which is over there. Let's have a look over here. Yeah, I mean, this airfield has obviously been around since like just you know, kind of pre sort of World War II. I think they used to fly like Typhoons and Lysanders and things like that from Odiham. Um, and but yeah, having gone there kind of recently, um, it doesn't look too bad. I know they can work off like Google Maps and stuff like that, but yes, it's not too bad. There are some areas which do look a little bit odd, like if you go down the runway and start kind of heading in easterly direction, you notice that there's like a couple of random trees which are kind of popped up on some of the slots, which is a little bit odd, but okay, I'm sure they'll kind of suss it out and get that detail done. One of the best bits, though, I must admit, and I was kind of super pleased when they kind of popped this in, is the sounds for the APU, and in fact, it's like the running and transmissions and stuff like that, right, is really, really good. But I'll just keep quiet for the APU start. Okay, just kind of putting the battery on. Got a bunch of course your advisory captions that are on there. That's kind of good. And then yeah, I'll just keep quiet for the APU. Always 2 rings. Good, and yeah, I love that sound. How they've done it, not kind of in person necessarily, but yeah, and especially you know you can change it, you can hear that distinctive change as it changes from a motor to a pump. Really, really good. So I'm not going to go through every. In fact, I'm going to skip a bit of the start, right? Because again, I know countless people have already done it in lots of videos. It does need a bit of work. When you put the PTUs on there, you should see that you know a little bit of response from the flying controls. There's also they make a very distinctive noise as well. It's kind of a shame that, but you know that's something that they can add in. But yeah, as far as starting it up, the indications. Some of the indications are just not quite right. The start sequence, like the EEPs and that kind of stuff. When the engines are in, for example, ground idle, they should be. There's a little mark on like the N1 gauges, and it's the 50%. And when you start them up, they just seem to rocket past that, and they go up to like 70 or something like that. And yeah, it doesn't seem to matter kind of how you sort of start it up or whatever. I've kind of do it, you know, I followed their step by step, but also I've kind of do it how I kind of recognise it as well, and it still needs a little bit of work. But anyway, we're kind of up and running. I'm pretty sure I did see another aircraft run up there. I am, by the way, kind of recording this on the live server, basically. So I guess if somebody else has kind of come in, they'd be here. Another kind of weird thing, and I understand why you have to kind of use the pedals, is in respects of power steering, right? There's a control knob on the back of the center console which you turn, and I don't know how they do that in the game. So I understand how they've done it. You know, you end up using the rudder pedals. So yeah, we've got a friend, right? We've got a playmate. Oh, they're off. Okay, so they wouldn't normally do that. You know, you'd expect them to kind of taxi out over to go to the end here and kind of turn right and kind of disappear off from that direction. But you know what? There's another aircraft around. Yeah, let's just go for it. And see if I can catch them up. Actually, I really don't know, right? If for example, now that because I'm not kind of that au fait with this sort of stuff, where whether this is like another player that just happens to be here, and they've got the Chinook, because I imagine a few people have got the Chinook now and they've kind of given it a shot, or it's a case of once it appears in the game that you can get AI models that kind of use it and fly around or whatever. I really don't know, to be honest. If you do know, actually, if that's a bit of detail that you know, then you can kind of drop it in the chat. But yeah, I mean it flies pretty good. Certainly in this kind of configuration here, and what I was actually going to fly around the camp and stuff like that in this particular video. All right, let's just turn that power steering off. It's a bit like there's a power steering caption that comes on when the system's on, but that's opposite of how it works, right? It's supposed to come on when the system has got a problem. Yeah, but anyway, we'll see if we can kind of catch this whoever this other player is. I mean, I've got no way to kind of communicate with them, or I don't know, I could be just like chasing down some kind of AI or something. But yeah, I had planned on kind of lifting out of Odiham, which does kind of, the updated airfield and everything does come with the package if you buy it. We are flying particularly fast. The whole thing would, there'd be a considerable amount of vibration at this kind of speed. That's for sure. But yeah, I was going to kind of potter around a bit, perhaps do some lifting some unloads, all that kind of stuff. But then when I spotted this person here, I was like, right, let's see what we can do. Let's try and find them on the showcase, and no, I seem to have kind of picked the wrong camera. But in the external view, you see there with the overlaps, that needs fixing. Right? I mean, it's not a view that I use that often, but there's definitely something right there. So anyway, we'll go back into the cockpit. We'll just kind of close. But yeah, what I was saying before is that, yeah, I mean, straight level flight, it's not too bad, right? I mean, it's pretty much kind of handles like very similar to a conventional aircraft. Where, and I know 47 Driver and a couple of others have kind of picked up on it, where the model for me doesn't work is, in this kind of sort of like low speed kind of environment, right? So sort of just trying to think of the parameters, anywhere from like hovering to about 40 knots. Oh, okay, you can start kind of crabbing to side and all that sort of business, but beyond that, as you start to accelerate, then you should be able to do coordinated turns and this sort of stuff. But for some reason in the model, when you come to do that, the aircraft just, I don't know, it expects you to put some yaw in and touch the pedals, but in reality, past, yeah, kind of 30-40 knots, whatever, you'd be nowhere near those pedals, right? You'd just be using the collective thrust for our American friends and the cyclic. So this is where it all kind of went slightly wrong. The doorbell went. I tried to do an active pause, and yeah, unfortunately we couldn't kind of catch up with that person. But anyway, there's my kind of initial thoughts. Not bad, but yeah, needs a little bit of work. But I will do some follow-on videos and that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.